raunchy.
Sleazy.
Flawless.
The Grindhouse, or Action House, is an American term for a theater that mainly shows low-budget horror, splatter, and exploitation films for adults.
Normally low-budget film that pushes boundaries, that has these great taboo subjects, that doesn't take itself too seriously, is a lot of fun, and has a badass aesthetic.
It's the movies that got picked to be in those cinemas. They're the only cinemas that would pick these films. And what it is the tenacity that went into making such a low-budget form of art. These people worked really hard and they pulled every trick out of the hat that they could think of. But the only theaters that would take them would be these sleazy dives.
It's essentially punk rock cinema, but with the desire to get a paycheck at the end of it. It's like, yeah, we're the guys who are out here on the edge, like we're wild and we're going to put on a show like you have never seen. It's like sensationalism at its finest before it was co-opted by the Hollywood machine. Please buy a ticket.
When we say Grindhouse today, it evokes a very specific set of feelings and images, and while those are solidified in our pop culture zeitgeist, the term's origins are not quite so set in stone. Historian David Church, in From Exhibition to Genre, the Case of Grindhouse Films, proposes that the term Grindhouse came about first in 1923, when a Variety newspaper article used the term referring to the grind policy, which was a film programming method that could be historically dated back to the era of the 1920s. The grind policy basically provided that films should be shown continuously at reduced rate ticket prices. Conversely, grindhouse theaters were often located in entertainment districts that also featured burlesque-style entertainment venues that predated them, with the term grindhouse used often to describe those establishments where adult entertainment such as stripping and dancing took place. Whether it be the burlesque joint or the moving pictures, the grindhouse was the exclusive playground of the adult looking for a good time and cheap thrills. Typically open all night, and the accessibility of an all-night theater on a single admission is something many patrons could not pass up. Television was, in some capacity, helpful to the grindhouse. While many theaters were closed due to the rise of home television programming, the grindhouses could give audiences what television couldn't. A rise in exploitation programming would keep the grindhouse doors open, while simultaneously, all across the country, drive-in theaters were adopting similar tactics of programming. The explosion of exploitation cinema that would follow spawned numerous subgenres, giving new generations of icons a voice, and new generations of filmmakers the proving ground on which to make their first mark. By the mid-80s, the world was once again changing, and whereas classic TV couldn't compete with the unchecked gore, violence, sexuality, and chaos of the grindhouse, its new adversary, home video, could deliver it into the audience's living room. The grindhouse was quickly being phased out and rendered obsolete. But what they cinematically represented would find its voice in their competitor, the home video market, through companies like Full Moon, Canon, Troma, and many more.
My introduction to Grindhouse Cinema was actually Mexican exploitation films that I grew up watching in the 80s and 90s. It was pretty commonplace in my home for some reason to just have breakfast on a Sunday and watch inappropriate exploitation film.
But I used to own a set. It was Peter Cushing and Vincent Price's Scream and Scream Again and The Oblong Box. So I would say that those are the movies that helped pave the way for me.
My introduction to Grindhouse Cinema really was, I think, twofold. Half of it being my father and just the general kind of movies that he enjoyed and watched. And then a few years later, I discovered Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision, and that really introduced me to a lot of the staples of Grindhouse Cinema that I had not already seen through my dad.
By the 2000s, the grindhouses of Los Angeles along Broadway and Hollywood Boulevard, as well as in New York within Times Square, were gone. And by this point, very little of the taboo subject matter and subgenres that made up the cornerstones of grindhouse cinema had not been incorporated into the Hollywood machine. But while the movie theaters themselves had long since moved on, those who loved what the grindhouse represented were keeping its spirit alive with all the filmmaking tools that modern cinema has gifted us. In 2007, the joint effort of Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino would produce Grindhouse. Released stateside as a double feature, it combines Rodriguez's Planet Terror, a horror comedy about a group of survivors who battle zombie-like creatures, and Tarantino's Death Proof, an action thriller about a murderous stuntman who kills young women with his modified vehicles, as well as utilizing fictitious exploitation trailers directed by Rodriguez himself, along with Rob Zombie, Edgar Wright, Eli Roth, and Jason Eisner as a connective tissue between in order to simulate the experience of the classic Grindhouse theater. And in the tradition of Grindhouse, while the release was not necessarily a financial smash, the visibility of it and the filmmakers behind it gave renewed interest in what had become known as the Grindhouse style. Spurred on by this across the United States and beyond, you can find filmmakers like Little Spark Films carrying the torch of Grindhouse cinema.
Our newest project, Death World, is highly influenced by Grindhouse Cinema. We wanted to really freak people out, gross people out. I mean, the proof of concept starts off with two dudes going to a movie theater and the monster comes out of the screen to murder them. He literally tears off someone's face. No VFX, all practical, gore, blood and guts. It's a schlocky story. It's real silly. Essentially about the end of the world and how you can't change the past. Death World is a short film we want to finish. We're not asking for a lot of money. We need about $6,000 in completion funds to finish our post-production on this super gory dystopian tale, and to get it out into film festivals as soon as possible. You can find Death World on the platform Indiegogo. If you go to littlesparkfilms.net, you can just click on the Death World picture and it takes you straight to the page. You can donate however much you want to the project. We have all sorts of perks up for everyone, and we hope you all find something that you love. We love movies. We want to make movies. And this is the best way for us as a collective to move forward in our career choice and to also work together. And we are very open to inviting everyone to come and play with us. So, if you donate to the campaign and you want to be even more a part of the project, hit us up. Go on to Little Spark Films website, hit us up, and see how you can get involved yourself, other than just donating money. We'll be glad to talk to you. So, thank you for everything. Grindhouse Showcase is now available, the first 10 years of Little Spark Films. You can also catch the Death World Proof of Concept at a couple of events. Donate to the campaign so we can make the movie. And there you have it. Cool.